Hello, hobby friends. Back to another solo ramble video. You guys are getting a little accustomed to these. Hopefully this, I think we're getting close to this being the last one. You know what? I might be able to squeeze another one in tomorrow. We'll see before Jay and I resume our normal behavior this week, and we'll so we shouldn't have any of these for a while until the summer when some of us start taking vacation time and stuff like that. But hope everyone's had a good start to the new year, and it hasn't been very long. There's been some fun news so far. Games Workshop's today did a preview of a preview. So, like, what is it? Is it LVO? One of the big shows is next week. One of the big tournament things is next week, and they're doing a preview. So they'll have a whole bunch, I'm sure, of stuff. Although we got a pretty huge preview last time. So I am wondering if this one's going to be a little underwhelming. Usually they don't have like back-to-back ridiculous ones, but hey, who knows? I was wrong about the last one. But today I actually wanted to talk about some other news that came out in the last day or two. I think I only saw it today, but many of you have maybe have seen it for longer than that, and that's the announcement that the Bandai folks are making a miniature game, essentially, called Gundam Assemble. And I think people are trying to call me on my cell phone while I record this. It's kind of crazy. It's the time where my kids go to bed, so I'm getting like dinged from a whole bunch of people. Anyways, sorry. I think the thing that like really shook me about this news was two things. Number one is understanding like how big the like Bandai is and how big the Gundam stuff is. Like it's absolutely like an absolutely massive hobby. Just in terms of like in the area, like so many hobby shops have it on their shelf. There's like stores that exclusively almost deal with this stuff. And they're almost like the old timey like 20, 30, 40 years ago, like model railroad kind of store or like scale model store that had like just scale model kits that you build and then just sold the stuff to do that. And that was a whole business to itself. Gunpla is like big enough that like stores like that actually can exist where the store can like sell all the Gunpla and like stuff associated with Gunpla and then all the tools and paint and whatever. But to be honest, it's mostly the tool side with Gunpla. That's the thing that makes it different than Warhammer is a lot of it is like building the kits and cleaning them and making them look kind of immaculate. A lot less people kind of color them and kind of do like extra stuff with them, although that is a hobby as well. And secondly, the fact that like, so the first thing that they're big, but like the second thing is that they hadn't done this already or thought of something like this because when you actually think about it, it seems so obvious. And for the simple reason of like Venn diagrams exist. And there's a whole bunch of people that play, or I should say, participate in the Gunpla hobby, like building cool kits. And the Bandai kits are phenomenal. Like I personally was never really too into like the Gundam stuff. Like I might be the only person in my friend group, including Jay, who didn't have like a Gundam phase or whatever. That wasn't me. Warhammer stole my heart early and kept it or whatever. But I was never Gunpla curious. But it's a huge hobby and tons of people have done them. And the kits are incredible. They've been making plastic kits, like state-of-the-art stuff for years. Like they're really nice. And of course, so like there's tons of people that do that hobby, the building, just building cool things hobby. And then like people who like games exist. There's people who like board games. There's people who like card games. There's a lot of people who like miniature games. And you can kind of, just kind of hit the overlap on that and think, okay, there's got to be a number of people that would find this interesting, right? And they must have finally figured that out. I mean, there's something about doing something really well as a company. I think that's the other side to this, right? Is like one of the reasons they may not have done this for a long time is that like sometimes focusing on something really simple, like having almost like a really simple brand, that clear mission statement as a company can be really nice. And just be like, hey, we're really good at making these things that people like to build, and that's what we do. Okay, so yeah, I can respect that. But at some point, when you grow to a certain size, I think whether or not it's like the pressure of like shareholders to make more money, or it's just like the obvious, like we can do this and it's sort of aligned with our goals anyways. I think that's where they're at with something like this, because here's what you get, I think, by doing this project or product or whatever they're making, Assemble, is there's going to be people that already do Gunpla that are like, this is cool. This is just new Gunpla stuff that I can collect. Now, granted, I've seen the plastic frames. They're small. They're much less pieces. Obviously, something much more akin to like a Warhammer figure on a frame, which makes sense because if this is going to be a game, it has to be accessible. And so there's going to be a level of people that already do the Gunpla stuff that are like, okay, these are new things to collect. I think what's interesting about miniature games, something that's not talked about a lot, especially in the YouTube space, because it's so dominated by like people that game, is that the game actually, like, for a lot of people, especially like you see this when you work in a hobby shop, it's essentially for many people, and this has been me like a lot of times too, it's just a framework to collect things, if that makes sense. Like it's a cool way to like add context to a collection of miniatures that you just kind of needed an excuse to buy and collect and paint and have fun with, right? So I think that's something that's probably not missing from their product line, but like obviously they have like the Gundam shows that make everything famous, and then there's a context there. So like you collect your favorite Gundams from your favorite shows and that sort of thing, and obviously that adds context. But now they have this whole new context where like there's an actual game, and now there's like going to be a range of figures, and now this is whole new framework of for collecting and painting these miniatures, which it seems like they're going into. And that's the other big thing is like, these are, from what I can tell, what I've seen so far, like bare plastic, gray figures with the intent that you're build, painting, and playing. So this is like right out of the Games Workshop book here. And obviously there's no way that they haven't like researched and kind of like figured out that that's kind of like a template that they want to follow for this. So this is what's crazy to me. Like, I think this has huge potential. They have a huge audience of people that already like the Gundam stuff, like I said, that will probably dip into this in some way. So that's one thing. Then there's people that just like miniature games already. And from my experience and me personally, my own hobby and just running hobby stores and that sort of thing, there's a whole group of people that are constantly looking for new experiences in the miniature hobby world, and likely there will be some people that just like try it because it's a new game that comes out. So they have that as well. Yeah, and I think one thing this does as well, which is why I'm even making a video about it, is I think there are like shops like mine. We're obviously a bit weird here with the hobby stuff, but there's gonna be shops like mine that are like primarily Warhammer stores that have other miniature games. Don't carry Gunpla for space, other reasons, like I don't know a lot about it. It seems like you need a lot of space to carry a lot of stuff for it. There's a lot of shops that already carry it. I guess that's another thing too. This product has huge potential to get on a shelf of a shop like mine because of the gaming side to it, where I know it's going to appeal to a lot of customers and clients that I already have curated here at the shop, and they have to know that as well, right? I think there's a lot of shops that fit the bill for that as well, like the Warhammer Magic stores that also probably don't have Gunpla on the shelf. This to me screams like an easy thing they can put on the shelf and easily kind of have that brand recognition. It's a game, it's Gundam. It already, like, you could just sell the Warhammer paints with it if you already had that, because if you're already carrying the Citadel stuff, or it lets you branch into another company or stuff like that. So it's the potential's huge. The potential's huge, I think. And that's exciting for a number of reasons. As a shop, it's always cool to see a new contender kind of enter the ring. And let's be honest here, like Bandai being huge and Gundam being huge, this is a serious thing, I think. I think it has the potential to grow the hobby in a meaningful way. And what I mean by the hobby, I mean the build, paint, play hobby. The if you want to say I hate to say the Games Workshop hobby, but in a lot of ways it is the Games Workshop hobby because they kind of created this market to a degree, in the modern sense. I don't want to hate on like the historical war games that came before it, but they really did modernize it and kind of bring it to the huge level that it is now. But this new Gundam Assemble game has a huge potential to bring a whole new group of people over from the Gundam world into miniature wargaming for the first time, which is really cool. They could be going into stores that they didn't go into before that are more gaming focused versus the kind of like traditional hobby shops that they've been going to or the Gunpla stores they've been going to, or maybe they just order online, whatever. It's a chance for more collisions to happen. I think that's the big way to describe it. And I actually think that, like, funny enough, I think it's actually going to be pretty good for Games Workshop. As much as like this is now a big boy competitor entering into the same space as them. And let's be honest, it is the same space. It's a build, paint, play experience. It's high quality plastic miniatures from a company that's been able to deliver that experience for many, many years. It is them entering the same space, but I think it may do it in a way that grows the industry and grows the space for both companies, if that makes sense. If it's done right, like there's always the chance that it's just like gonna be like this little flash of the pan thing, and they don't actually have a big plan for it, and it's not hugely supported. Maybe the game itself isn't very interesting, and it just ends up being kind of like a bit of a flop. But I don't know. I don't think that's going to be the case. And I might get beat up in the comments a little bit about this, but I don't think the game actually matters that much. Like I said this before in video, like Jay and I talked about it. Does the game you play actually matter? Like, the older I get, my answer to that turns more into no. It's obviously about sharing experience with people you like, and kind of like the game is just the context you want to enjoy, like the setting and the miniatures. At least for me, I'm speaking myself, and I think a lot of people that come to our shop, at least from my experience, the longer they're in the hobby, the more that their hobby becomes like that, where they kind of follow their friends into whatever they're into, and they worry less about liking the game they're playing, and they just kind of focus on, this is the game I play, this is what my friends play. I'm going to find a way to enjoy that. And I think as long as the Gundam Assemble has enough of that, like there's enough there that people could be interested in, that's the potential it has, I think. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I'm excited to see what the products look like, the physical products, how they package it, what the price points are going to be. Are they going to release ancillary products like, this is one thing Games Workshop has refined over the years. Like, it's not just that you can buy the Space Marines, it's that they have all these other things that go with it, right? Like, they have great starter kits, and they have paint kits that, like, you can go right into, and their paint range, whether you like it or hate it, is very beginner friendly. So it's very easy to enter the hobby. Is this something that Bandai's kind of thought out fully, right? Maybe they've said this stuff already. I've only watched a couple of like intro videos and read a couple articles, but yeah, that's the stuff I'm excited to see. Obviously, from the business side, is like how's it gonna look? What's it gonna sell for? What's the promise to the customer on release? That sort of stuff. What's the promise in the future? Like, what are their plans with this product? Are they releasing it and kind of just, we'll see what happens. We'll see if people buy it. We'll put more money into it, or are they going big or going home, sort of thing, right? So. Ultimately, in this fast-paced miniature market, the customers have kind of come to expect a pretty steady stream of new releases for things in order to perceive the game as being successful and kind of being valid and existing. It's almost like a promise into the future. Like if people don't know stuff is coming out for a game, it in a weird way people want to invest less in it, if that makes sense. And I know it's not a healthy way to be. People really should just buy the things they like and enjoy them for what they are. But we are all victims of this like marketing kind of like propaganda, and the industry leaders like Games Workshop, they set the pace for that, right? Like they put us in that headspace where we are constantly looking at what's new and chasing the next thing, right? Amazing if you can detach from that, but running a hobby shop, it's definitely not possible for us to detach from that. We are very much bound to that. And as a person who also enjoys and loves this hobby and has for 30 years, I also find it difficult always to detach fully from that. If you have a really strong group of friends, that helps obviously, because you can kind of just do your own thing. Back to the point, I think it's pretty exciting to see something like this. I'm optimistic. I think it's going to be a cool product. I hope it's packaged well and we can sell it to people if it is what it is. And yeah, I'm optimistic about what it could be and obviously the theme. I'll kind of end on this. The theme is going to be is going to determine a lot for people, right? Like at the end of the day, I mean that's the case with anything, right? Like whether you like 40K or Sigmar or Old World, Infinity, Malifaux, Batman, like superhero Marvel stuff. The theme matters, obviously, a ton, and people are going to have to be into the robots thing. But if one thing's for sure, like 40K and BattleTech and kind of these like sci-fi games have proven, Infinity, is that people like robots and they like them a lot. Robots are probably the best selling thing, period, right? Like Space Marines look like robots, quite frankly, obviously. BattleTech is a game of robots. It does tremendously well. Infinity, like some of the most popular models that sell, even though people don't play them a lot, are tags, which are like their robots, because they're just really cool robot models. So I don't think the theme's a problem. Obviously, the gunplay is so huge; it hasn't been a problem. I'm just kind of speaking from the sake of like it's not going to be for everybody, obviously, and that's not the case with anything, right? Like the same way a historical game isn't for everybody, but the theme I think has more going for it than it has against it. So that's always kind of good. And the fact that it does fall into this group of like, it's kind of like, say like it's halfway between like a Marvel and a Marvel miniature game and like a 40K miniature game, in the sense that like it has this like really strong brand that has like associations with television shows primarily, right? Like that's where it comes from, the associations, and why people love it for the most part. But it has the 40K thing going for it, where the creators are the ones making the game. And because of that, they aren't limited to what they can do, which is, I think, one of the most important parts to any new miniature game is, do they have the creative license to create things indefinitely in the future? And that's where you see, we're going off topic a little bit here, but we're almost at garbage time, so give me some credit here. I almost made it to 20 minutes before I started really rambling. Is the problem you really get to with games like Marvel and Star Wars and any of these like IP borrowing is the people making the miniature game don't have the creative license. They are limited. They are kind of in a bit of a box, right? And they're limited by like what things that are created in that universe. They could be pretty big universes, but they're still kind of limited, right? Whereas like Games Workshop just makes new things up all the time, whether people love that or hate that. They can rip a new race for 40K out of a little blurb in something that they wrote 30 years ago, or not, or they can just say that this is new and deal with it. And that's powerful, right? I think you need that. You need that ability to make new things to keep it exciting. I think that's where my head's at. So yeah, what do you guys think? Are you excited? Did you even know Gundam Assemble was a thing? And do you think you'll dabble in some of it, or is it just something that like you're like, oh, that's cool, and then you just kind of move on with your life? I'm curious how many people are actually interested. I know I've been talking about it with a few customers today at the shop. So I mean, anytime news comes out and immediately customers are talking about it, I know that at least there's like it's moved off the internet. I think that's the big way to describe that, right? Like it's no longer just sort of like a purely online thing. Like, not to bash Trench Crusade, like, I gotta mention that for the algorithm. But like, I hadn't really had many people talk to me about that in the shop. And here I am, like 1 or 2 days after the news for Gundam, and people are like already like, "Oh, have you seen this Gundam Assemble thing?" So, I mean, obviously these are different scales. Like Gundam's is massive. Trench Crusade is a Kickstarter. I'm just as an example, like saying like when these things move out of the internet space and into like an actual hobby shop, and people are having these like in person conversations, I think that makes it a bit more real, right? You're out of your bubble and you're kind of just into a more normal space. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you, like I said, something you're interested in, or yay, nay? Do you think it'll? You've already the clickbaity title I'm coming up with here. It's nothing to do with the video, but do you think it'll destroy Games Workshop? No. Do you think it's going to hurt their sales or help them? I think it's going to help. I know it's a weird take. It's a weird take, but there's reason to believe that like sometimes products can bring in new eyeballs onto something, and I think that can always help Games Workshop. I think they have a product that they are proud of and presents well in competition with something like Gundam. And in this form, if the Gundam guys move into the Gundam models and they're doing the miniature game thing, it's very easy to now be like, okay, we build, paint, and play with Gundam models. What's the biggest company in the world that does the build, paint, play thing, right? And obviously it's like a much easier transition. It's harder to go from just Gunpla to Games Workshop because you're not, the gaming thing is a bit of a mystery. But if you've already taken that step, I think it's like, yeah, I don't know. That's where my brain's at least. That's where I'm thinking. But yeah, I don't know. On the other side of it, it's going to be nice if they do like kick ass and like it takes off. It's just nice to have competitors again, like it'd be nice to have another big range of models on the wall that isn't Games Workshop, that's doing well and has like a bit of a presence. I think every company should feel a little bit of that heat. So here's hoping, right? Thanks for watching, guys. If you like these videos, like and subscribe. If you really like them, check us out on Patreon. We have some fun stuff planned for 2025 for our Patreon members, including the much anticipated and looking forward to tour of the store. I don't know why you guys want to see the store so bad. It's not that exciting. But yeah, it's going to be a good year. Take care, guys.